Hello everybody, today we're going to be breaking down Joshreyli and Eomzo's incredible performance in the most recent NA Central eval finals. Now, in order to break down this performance, I think it's important to only focus on their endgames. The mid-games are almost entirely built on patience and not aggressing. That's what kind of happens with this new surge. But their endgames are really solid examples about how to play for refreshes in this meta. So there's two real things we're going to take away from watching this team. One is how to get refreshes and then get away. So we're going to see like a lot of habits to develop in order to be able to not only get kills, but get away with those kills without getting punished. And two is how to convert those kills into wins. So we're going to first start off with a game that actually isn't a win. It's going to be their second place with 13 kills, because to get that many kills in an endgame, I think is a really impressive performance. Now I'm going to swap over to Eomzo real quick. The thing to know about this max pull rotate is that it is pretty hellish when you have no mobility. So whenever Eomzo is forced to pause on this rotate to recharge his sprint, he does his best to keep his eyes focused up to try and find the clearest path. He looks up to this right side and he goes, there's like 4 or 5 teams over here. I see just a bunch of builds. I don't see any clean space. If I build up here, I can be easily coned. And then he looks left and he sees a lot less builds. And on top of that, he doesn't see many visuals. On his screen, he sees like 2 visuals over here, and he goes, you know what? There's not that many people on the side. The clear path is going to be going up left. As he starts going up left, all of a sudden Cringe and Velo fall onto his wall, and things start to get a little chaotic. There's not really much to take away in terms of finding refreshes from this. They kind of just got blessed and just happened to fall into this, but I think there's something important to note about recovery from this. So we get this big refresh, and we get it more so towards the middle of zone. So right here, we have Josh and Eomzo. I'm going to circle them because Eomzo's arrow isn't on the zone. They are essentially as middle as you can possibly be here. They're also incredibly elevated to the low ground. So what do? They immediately cut up to the right, and then they elevate up to the right. You're going to see this consistently. Whenever they get a refresh, they elevate up and up and up and up and up. The reason why is because when you elevate upwards, you are less likely to find other players. Let's just do a quick little thing here. There is 2 teams on their lair. This team over here has no chance of killing them. Whereas if they were still on low ground, trying to recover from this backside, they're going to find themselves in this just messed up, messy position back here, similar to how Veer and Ozone just died. So a good habit to get into is whenever you get a refresh, especially a max mat refresh, just like they got there, you need to try and elevate up and to a side. So just to circle back to my previous point about how Eomzo and Josh were fully towards this middle side, we now look and Josh and Eomzo are over here, and they are one of the most southern teams towards this right side of the zone. It is a complete 180 from where they were at the start of this zone. And as we watch them more and more through these 2 endgames, we're going to see them consistently do this. Whenever they get a refresh, they try and elevate up and get to a side to minimize their risk. So this is where Eomzo gets a little too aggressive. He sees a solo run up here. He sees a solo get there late. He tries to aggress him. Causers does a good job of counter-aggressing, which forces him to slow down. And this is where I'm going to shift over to Josh. We're going to see this more so in the second game, but one of the key aspects that's really good about Josh and why he's so good at finding refreshes is his eyes and ears work together. So what I mean by that is he's incredibly good at looking at his visuals and then using what he hears to identify where they are essentially instantly. It's like he has wall hacks. You watch top players, Peterbot, Shark, Josh, and they all seem to have this like 6th sense to be able to follow and track players perfectly through builds based purely on visuals. And that's what he does here. He knows this player's going to come up, and then just perfect piece gets him that refresh. That is a skill that can only be trained by playing Fortnite. You need to put the hours in and just keep working on it. That is not something you can do externally. It can only come through grind. Once again though, once they get that refresh, Notice how they are now layers up. They were down here before. They elevate up once again to make sure they're on their own layer so that they are safe to recover after they get that refresh. You always want to make sure you are as safe as possible. The only really, real time this shouldn't be the case is when you are on, ultimate low ground, because that is your win condition. You should not be giving it up unless you are forced to. So this is just a classic high ground retake. So as zone transitions here, they're going to try to set up a high ground retake. So what they do is they have Josh back tarp, try to chop height back here. Meanwhile, Eomzo stays front side. So if zone pops and let's say it pulls max, Eomzo can tarp. All of a sudden they are front side while Acorn and Bolt are falling. This zone, it doesn't work perfectly, but it still does a great job of priming Acorn and Bolt to really have their height taken later. So because they chopped height there, Acorn and Bolt both take a bunch of fall damage, and on top of that, they have to re-establish their high ground later. So even though Josh and Eomzo aren't going to get height off this high ground retake, it makes their next high ground retake easier. Now if they just chop Acorn and Bolts, they're not going to have the mats later on in the game to hold height. So even if you can't take height when you chop them, just chopping them is helpful to being able to take it later. This next play is kind of just Josh just being super good. I don't know why I'm hearing someone else's game audio in Fortnite right now. Don't ask questions. Sometimes Fortnite just be Fortnite. This team cuts off Josh mid-tarp. Josh is able to just get the piece there. Not really much to say about that. That's just really clean gameplay. Also, if you're wondering why is he taking the revolver over an AR, the revolver acts as two things. One, it's really good for structure damage. So it can basically just you pump and then you revolver and you can just take piece and then you're happy. And then on top of that, it also just acts as a pseudo double pump. You can get a lot of damage off in a really short amount of time, both to the player and to the builds. But a key thing is because they've been elevated so much this endgame, they don't really get punished when they get refreshes because there's not many other teams on their layer to punish them. On that previous rotate, if they're on a lower layer and gotten that kill, they would have been honestly screwed because they wouldn't have had much space to work with. But because they're second height, they have a lot of space. Notice how Josh does not get greedy and does not get the dopamine rush. He makes sure to focus staying forward over prioritizing just full committing to this fight. Once he gets forward is when he really starts to focus on trying to fight Z-Link, but Z-Link's already gone at that point. I'm going to shift back over to Eomzo. Now that they're really starting to run out of mats, this is when they need to layer down because they don't have the mats to sustain themselves if height sprays them. And on top of that, it's just easier to find a desperation refresh on a lower layer just because there's more players. Able to get that kill onto Z-Link. Able to get there. Notice how once again, once they get that refresh, they don't stick around on that layer. They always elevate up. They always do it. It is a habit they do every single time. From here, they just get blessed again by good positioning. Able to get that refresh. Notice also, they are always to the side. They are the most left team there, whereas these teams all in the middle just end up piling onto each other, and they all end up dying. I'm so able to get that refresh. Josh is able to clean up the player that tries to kill Eomzo. And now I'm going to focus on Josh here because what he does during this next height take is incredible. So part of the reason why priming that height team earlier is so important, because height very rarely gets refreshes. If you're Acorn and Bolts, your ability to get a refresh that actually gains you mats is very difficult. Whereas if you're Eomzo and Josh, because they're on a mid-ground layer, it's not that hard to just find a refresh and all of a sudden, hey, I got mats to look up. And so if you can burn Height's mats by doing what they did earlier, by chopping them, all of a sudden, you get one good refresh and you are in position to take Height. This is where things get a little messy because of Rapid, but they're able to secure that elimination. At this point, they are very aware. If you were ever second Height and Height is playing this aggressive on your tops, it should click in your mind instantly, hey, height has no mats. On top of this, they look up, they know height is on wood, they've been known this. So it's very easy for them to call, hey, let's just go up, we outmat them. They go up from opposite sides to create two different angles. And this is where Josh kind of just does things that you really can't be taught. I'm just gonna let it play and just let you see greatness, because sometimes you just gotta appreciate things. What more can I say? That's crazy. Like, sometimes you gotta be a fan more than you gotta be a commentator. But now that they've gotten this refresh, they find themselves in a position to play to win the game. The unfortunate part about this is that Braids and Visuals just have a better heal off. And so while they are not able to convert this specific game into a win, most of the time, if you are a team that plays this endgame as well as Eomzo, you are going to be able to convert this game into a win. And honestly, a little bit more luck, they would have. Eomzo smacks in and misses the revolver shot. If he had gone a headshot off, he might have gotten that elimination, but still an overall very good game. And so now we're going to shift over and we're going to watch their last game of the day, their win. I want to focus on these two games specifically because these are their two highest kill games from the tournament, and now we're going to shift over to their 11 kill win. Once again, I'm going to skip over the mid game. I think mid game in this meta is really just, there's not really much to take away from it. This Surge has everyone just playing super passive. You're really de-incentivized from playing aggressive. On top of that, it's just a very weird map. Like, I could bore you by breaking down Josh and Eomzo's mid-game, but they don't really do anything special. They kind of just stay ahead and just play just a pretty classic mid-game, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to strictly focus on their endgames. So, we now delve into endgame number 2 and the last game we will be watching together. So this game, once again, is a game where they managed to get 10 plus kills entirely from the movements. That is absolutely crazy. So after running over here, they get absolutely blessed. This guy's teammate just got knocked. How this guy just died to fall, I don't really know, and I'm not going to investigate. We got better things to deal with. We need to figure out what makes Josh so good. How is he the next PeanutBrainTS? Is he the next PeanutBrainTS? Why did PeanutBrainTS play with him? We have so many questions. Is he really Canadian? That's a question I've been asking. I hope the Canadian officials look into it. Who knows? Who knows? Alpha's off that loot. There's not really going to be much happening here for the next few moments, but I want to really highlight this because I want to highlight the rotate on top of this as well. So when they see that max pull, they immediately go and they get closer. So this puts them in a way better position. So if they had stayed where they are, they would have been way further back on this sort of clustered edge. And once like people start to realize, hey, zone pulls, that's when they shift their vision. So the way most players work is they focus zone, so now they're looking and they're like focusing zone, and then they look back. Eomzo uses that window to kind of get halfway on this rotate and then pause. That is going to make the rest of this rotate a lot easier. It is going to make the next tack sprint run he's going to have to make a lot easier. It's going to get him further, and on top of that, it's just going to decrease the chance of him just getting sprayed backside because he's just the most backside team. I'm going to switch over to Eomzo real quick just so we can see this rotate from the IGL's sort of vision. So he hears this team run away. Really, a recurring thing we're going to see here is relying on visuals and like visualized sound effects. Because he sees these two footsteps start to run away, he knows this team is left. He's able to lurk into their tarp. It's going to be very important later on in this game when I talk about Josh's fragging. Able to find a pathway up to the right here, and then he's able to cut back and is able to elevate up to the left, and now they find themselves some breathing room. Really just clean tarp there out of Eomzo. Runs out of wood. And is just able to get fully front. That was a very difficult rotate, and they managed to complete it with really very little mats wasted there. Still very good mats. in a no mobility meta, which we are essentially in, as it's very hard for a lot of teams to get blinky fish, I think being able to make those rotates is an important aspect of any IGL. So they attempt to look for this aggression onto Kanata and Arc. It doesn't really go anywhere. This is where things get a little messy. I'm going to watch this from Josh's POV. As they attempt to run back through here, end up getting cut off, able to somehow get out of that box. And I want to focus on him because I think it's really important to kind of just like see what I keep talking about when it comes to getting refreshes. Also, whenever you are elevating up layers, it's important just to take inventory of height. Sometimes you elevate up and you just get a free height. Maybe there's just no height. Maybe you elevate up and height is shambles, they're out of wood. Taking inventory of height and just having that awareness as to what height is doing is very important into converting just regular games into wins. So Josh gets up here, they splash, and then this is just all about converting, seeing visuals, and then being able to convert that with your ears into knowing exactly where a player is. So Josh turns back around, and now that he's looking backwards, he's looking for visuals. It's going to be somewhere around here on his screen. And that's where he clues into Scare's visual. And that's when he figures out, using his eyes and ears, where Scare is, able to identify, like, he can play for this refresh, and is able to take Scare down. The more you watch top tier fraggers, I'm going to say this again, Shark, Peterbot, Josh, basically any legitimate tier 1 fragger, they do this so consistently and so well. Cold 2 is incredibly good at this. Just being able to see a visual and then combining that with what they hear, tell where that player is. Now if they get this refresh, they get to his side. They don't really need to elevate here as they're already on a very high layer. But once again, they are always to his side. Trying to convert their front side position into some sort of damage, some sort of kill, some sort of refresh. They can't really do it. So I'm going to keep my eye more on Josh than Eomzo this endgame because Josh does get 9 of their 11 elims. So they do get punished on that little jump rotate by height. Again, just playing off Eomzo right now. That's the beauty of that revolver. It just does so much structure damage so quickly. Plays a good angle, so if they peek, he can get counter damage. And then just really solid aim. Instead of immediately playing for the body, I'm actually going to play that back. Instead of immediately playing for that body, Josh does a really good job of immediately playing for the teammate. So right here, player gets the cone. Wall gets broke. He kills this player, right? A lot of players would have just tunnel visioned on the body. But he recognizes something. Hey, this is a knock. That means he's going to have a teammate. So instead of just playing for that body, he edits this cone and immediately clears this angle. He makes sure that there's not a guy holding this right peak. And then once he knows he's safe, once he's secured this body, that's when he goes to throw the body back. He clears that angle, then he goes to throw the body back. Instead of just rushing, getting that body, and maybe running the risk of, hey, there's a player there. Once again, same idea. They get toward the side. It's a little too late in the game to elevate up. And then just get that teammate's body. Kind of panic there. Again, same sort of idea. Every time you get a refresh, you should be doing a couple things. One, getting to a side and getting elevated. If you're already elevated, you don't really need to elevate more. But for most of you, you're going to be finding your refreshes on lower layers. So you want to be elevating. So elevating and getting to a side, and then taking inventory of height. So the second they get their refresh, they immediately turn their attention to looking up at Baka and Pars. Now, you are not going to always be able to take height whenever you look up. But when you look up, it gives you more opportunities to win games, to convert those refreshes and those mats into wins. Now, this next play is kind of just, once again, I'm a little glazing, Josh being Josh. When he looks up at height, realizes he can't get it, shifts his focus to Arc, is able to Pokeball Arc. Gets another really good refresh. Eomzo runs out of mats. Makes this game a little bit messy, but they're able to make it work. So at this point, they recognize, hey, we don't have the best mats. Height is full bearing down on us. They're full pressuring. They're full spraying. This isn't really a window for us to take height. Baka and Pars don't have the best mats right now, but there is just not a window for Josh and Eomzo to really do anything to take height, so they work down layers. And this is where Josh and I'm going to say, this is kind of like when you've interviewed PeanutBrainTS. You're just like, PeanutBrainTS does PeanutBrainTS things. This is kind of just like one of those moments. Okay. What am I to say about that? Still really good edits, really good angles, able to do that little slide to the right to block any incoming damage. Immediately gets together. This is where Havoc kind of lives up to his name and causes a little bit of havoc. Funny, right? This refresh keeps powering through. At this stage of the game, it's important to always be on top of each other. Beauty of the revolver is able to get that glow quick, like essentially double pump. This is where he kind of messes up. He lets Baka into his box when he doesn't have his shotgun reloaded, leads to him dying. And this is where Eomzo is just composure from years of competing, really shines. Doesn't fight, drops down, Baka's shotguns are reloaded, and they're able to win the game. So I hope this helped show you guys the habits you should be getting into whenever you do find these refreshes. You should be making sure you elevate up, and then making sure you are to a side, and then once you do that, you should be trying to look to convert that into a win. When you get these big refreshes, you should be immediately taking inventory of height. Just a quick glance. Hey, can we take it? Maybe not, maybe we can. But if you don't ever look at height, if you don't ever give yourself that opportunity to try and take it, you're never going to be able to win more games. So doing those two things is really important. A lot of what we just saw just comes down to Eomzo is a very, very good IGL that puts Josh in really good situations, and then Josh is able to really execute on that. We saw him and his ability to just like hear and then convert that into refreshes. We also saw Eomzo do that when it comes to IGLing. Visualized audio is a super underrated aspect of the game, and you need to be utilizing it more in your gameplay. You need to really understand where players are based off of what you hear and what you see. On top of that, I think that this is just a really good duo. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I know this is like a little bit different than the normal VOD reviews I do. I know really focus on just like the complete game, but with these like mid games, nothing happens for like 20 minutes. I didn't want to bore you guys. I want to really focus on the action specifically and how their end games were so good. So let me know if you guys liked it. If you guys made it all the way through to the end, love you all, appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, send it to your teammates. All of that is really appreciated. I'm going to be making another video on Monday, which is going to be it's going to be coming out on Monday, a solo VOD review. I'm not sure of who yet, but we will see. Leave recommendations in the replies, and if you want to track me, keep updates on me, follow my Twitter, PeanutBrainTS, @X, whatever, Twitter, whatever you call it nowadays. Appreciate all of you guys, and hope you guys all enjoyed.